What's up guys, this is BlockManYu-Gi-Oh, and in this video I'll be bringing you my Blackwing deck profile. So let's get started with the main deck. So first off, we're running 3 copies of Blackwing Simoon the Poison Wind. So Simoon the Poison Wind is our starter and searcher for Black Whirlwind. And if you control no monsters, you can, and this card is in your hand, you can banish another Blackwing from your hand. Place 1 Black Whirlwind from your deck face up in your spell and trap zone, then either send this card to the graveyard or immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon it without tributing. But it does lock you into darks, which is a shame. It locks you into dark extra deck monsters. But you can only use this effect of Simoon once per turn, and during the end phase you have to send the Black Whirlwind placed by this effect to the graveyard, and if you do, you take 1,000 points of damage. So next up, we're running 3 copies of Blackwing Crystal Crack of Dawn. Crystal Crack of Dawn has the effect that if you control a Blackwing monster other than Crystal Crack of Dawn, you can special summon it from your hand, but you can only special summon Crystal Crack of Dawn once per turn this way. And once per turn, this card cannot be destroyed by spell or trap effects. So it is a once per turn, but it can't be destroyed by spell and trap effects, which is great. It's a once per turn summon, once per turn special summon. And it's got 1900 attack, which makes it the highest normal summon in the deck. And if you pair it with Black Whirlwind, you've got to search for any of your... You've got pretty much a search for any of your other Blackwings. So another extender, if not is probably the best extender in the deck, is 3 copies of Boar of the Spear. Boar of the Spear has the effect that if you control Blackwing other than Boar of the Spear, you can special summon it from your hand. And note that this is not once per turn, so if you open up with Chris and 3 Boar, you can just normal summon Chris, special summon all 3 Boar of the Spears, and it does piercing damage. So that's absolutely fantastic. So that's a way you can sort of beat down your opponent early game if you don't open up with any extenders other than Chris and Bora. So then, next up, we're running 3 copies of Blackwing Gale the Whirlwind. Gale the Whirlwind has the effect that if you control Blackwing other than Gale the Whirlwind, you can special summon it from your hand. And once per turn, you can halve the attack and defense of 1 face-up monster your opponent controls. But Gale's special summon isn't once per turn, which is great. And it's a tuner as well, level 3 tuner. And if you can sort of force out a negate from your opponent by activating Gale, because if you have Gale on the field, you can halve the attack of their, say, Borreload Savage Dragon. And that will make it down to 1500. And then if you have Bora in your hand, for example, you can just summon Bora with its effect and beat over the Borreload Savage Dragon, which is fantastic, which means... But yeah. So next up, we're playing 2 copies of Blackwing Oster the South Wind. So Oster the South Wind has the effect that it cannot be special summoned, and when it's normal summoned, you can target one of your banished level 4 or lower Blackwing monsters, special summon it in defense position. And you can banish it from the grave to activate one of the following effects. The first effect is irrelevant because we don't play Blackwinged Dragon. But the second effect is place 1 wedge counter on each face-up monster your opponent controls that does not have one. It's a level 4 tuner. That means if you've got Simoon, you can make a Synchro 10, for example, for Blackwing Full Armor Master. And it's fantastic because you can summon back the card you banished off Simoon's effect. So next up, we're running 2 copies of Blackwing Harmattan the Dust. Harmattan the Dust has the effect that if you control Blackwing other than Harmattan the Dust, you can special summon it from your hand. And you can only special summon Harmattan the Dust once per turn this way. And when it's normal or special summoned, you can target another Blackwing monster you control and increase this card's level by that monster's. So if you just have an Oster on the field and it's been, say, Effect Veilered maybe, or Impermed, and you can just special summon Harmattan from your hand and make Harmattan a level 6, and then you've got a Synchro 10 play right there, boom. So for the one-ofs, the one-of Blackwings, we're running one copy of Zephyros the Elite. If it's in your grave, you can return a face-up card you control to the hand, special summon this card, and if you do, take 400 damage. And you can only use this effect of Zephyros the Elite once per duel. So it's something you want to see in your opening hand along with Simoon, because that would be the perfect hand, pretty much. And next up, we're running one copy of Orochi the Squall. If you control a Blackwing other than Orochi the Squall, you can special summon it from your hand, but you can only special summon Orochi the Squall once per turn this way. And if it's sent to the grave as a synchro material, you can target a monster on the field, change that target's battle position, which is fantastic. Next up, we're running one copy of Raid Raptor Strangle Lanius. If you control a dark monster, special summon it from your hand. Also, you can't special, but it does lock you into dark monsters. But if you control an Xyz monster with Dark Xyz monster as material, target a level 4 or lower Raid Raptor monster in your graveyard, special summon it, but its effects are negated. You can only use each effect of Raid Raptor Strangle Lanius once per turn. So next up, we're running one copy of Raid Raptor Singing Lanius. If you control a face-up Xyz monster, you can special summon it from your hand, but you can only special summon Raid Raptor Singing Lanius once per turn this way, which is fair enough. But next up, we're running one The Phantom Knights of Silent Boots. If you control a The Phantom Knights monster, you can special summon it from your hand. You can only special summon the Phantom Knights of Silent Boots once per turn this way. And you can banish it from your graveyard, add one Phantom Knight spell or trap from your deck to your hand. You can only use this effect of the Phantom Knights of Silent Boots once per turn. And next up, we're playing one copy of the Phantom Knights of Ancient Cloak. If it's in attack position, you can target a dark monster on the field, change this card to defense position, and if you do, that monster gains 800 attack and defense until the end of your opponent's turn. And you can banish this card from your graveyard, add one The Phantom Knights card from your deck to your hand, except the Phantom Knights of Ancient Cloak. You can only use each effect of the Phantom Knights of Ancient Cloak once per turn. And next up, we're running one copy of Raider's Wing, and it's always treated as a The Phantom Knights and Raid Raptor card. And if it's in your hand or graveyard, you can detach a material from your Dark Xyz monster, special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. And you can only use this effect of Raider's Wing once per turn. And an Xyz monster whose original attribute is Dark and has this card as material gains this effect. Your opponent cannot target this card with card effects, which is fantastic, because that opens up a lot of plays for you. So next up, we're running one Caligo Claw Crow. If you control a dark monster, special summon this card from your hand, but you can only special summon Caligo Claw Crow once per turn this way. It's a level 2 Dark Winged Beast, which is fantastic. And next up, for the last monsters, we're running 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. And Ash Blossom stops pretty much all of your opponent's plays that they may try to make. So, when a card or effect is activated that includes any of these effects, quick effect, you can discard this card and negate that effect. So if your opponent adds a card from the deck to the hand, or would special summon from the deck, send a card from the deck to the graveyard. But you can only use this effect of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring once per turn, so you can negate pretty much any play your opponent would make. So let's move on to the spells. We're running 3 copies of Black Whirlwind, probably the best spell in the deck. And when a Blackwing monster is normal summoned to your field, you can add a Blackwing monster from your deck to your hand with less attack than that monster. Well, it's a continuous spell, which is great, and that's our main searcher for the deck. So next up, for the draw power, we're running 3 copies of Allure of Darkness. Draw 2 cards, then banish a dark monster from your hand, or if you don't have any in your hand, send your entire hand to the graveyard. I can't think of any times where I've actually drawn anything that's not a dark, because pretty much everything in the deck is a dark. Every monster in the deck is a dark except for Ash Blossom, which is a fire type. And this is our draw power, and it's not once per turn either. So if our opponent Ash Blossoms the first one, we can just activate another. So next up, we're running 2 copies of Phantom Knight's Rank Up Magic Force. And during the main phase, banish 1 or more dark monsters from your graveyard, and target 1 Dark Xyz monster you control. Special summon from your extra deck 1 the Phantom Knight's Raid Raptor or Xyz Dragon Xyz monster whose rank equals that of the targeted monster you control, plus the number of monsters banished by using it as material. Also, for the rest of this turn, after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except Xyz monsters. This is treated as an Xyz summon and transfer its materials to the summoned monster, but you can only activate 1 Phantom Knight's Rank Up Magic Force per turn. It's fantastic. And next up, we're running 1 Called by the Grave. This stops our Black Whirlwind from being Ash Blossomed. And basically you target a monster in your opponent's grave, banish it, and if you do, until the end of the next turn its effects are negated, as well as the activated effects and effects on the field of monsters with the same original name. And it's a quick play, so basically if your opponent Ash Blossoms you, you can just activate that, banish Ash Blossom, and the Ash Blossom doesn't go through, so you still get your search. Next up, we're running 1 Monster Reborn. Monster Reborn is just a great extender in general. It's just target a monster in either grave, special summon it. Not much else to say about it. So next up, we're playing 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. And target a face-up monster your opponent controls, negate its effects until the end of this turn. Then if this card was set before activation and is on the field at resolution, for the rest of this turn all other spell and trap effects in this column are negated. And if you control no cards, you can activate this card from your hand, which is great. And next up, we're running 1 The Phantom Knights of Shade Brigandine. Special summon this card in defense position as a normal monster, warrior, dark, level 4, attack 0, defense 300. And this card is not treated as a trap. If you have no traps in your grave, you can activate this card the turn it was set, but you can only activate 1 The Phantom Knights of Shade Brigandine per turn. And lastly, for the traps, we're running 1 copy of Phantom Knight's Fog Blade. Activate this card by targeting an effect monster on the field. Negate that face-up monster's effects. That face-up monster cannot attack. Also, monsters can't target that face-up monster for attacks. When it leaves the field, destroy this card. You can banish this card from your graveyard, then target 1 The Phantom Knight's monster in your graveyard, special summon it, but banish it when it leaves the field. You can only use this effect of Phantom Knight's Fog Blade once per turn. So basically you can just, in really niche situations, you can just target one of your monsters if your opponent's about to swing for game. You can target one of your monsters, that means your opponent can't target them for attacks. And then you've got a few turns to stall. So let's move on to the extra deck. So first off, we're running 1 copy of the Phantom Knights of Rusty Bardiche. And it requires 2+ dark monsters. During your main phase, you can send 1 The Phantom Knights monster from your deck to the graveyard, then set 1 Phantom Knight spell or trap directly from your deck to your spell and trap zone. If a Dark Xyz monster is special summoned to a zone this card points to, while this monster is on the field, except during the damage step, you can target one card on the field, destroy it, and you can only use each effect of the Phantom Knights of Rusty Bardiche once per turn, and it cannot be used as link material. So, next up, we're running one copy of Raid Raptor Weistrix. It requires 2 Dark-Winged Beast monsters, and if it's link summoned, special summon a level 4 Dark-Winged Beast monster from your deck in defense position, but negate its effect, also it cannot be used as link material. If your Raid Raptor Xyz monster effect is activated, set one rank up magic spell directly from your deck, and if it is a quick play spell, it can be activated this turn. You can only use each effect of Raid Raptor Weistrix once per turn. So, next up, we're running one copy of Blackwing Full Armor Master. It's unaffected by other cards' effects, and each time your opponent monster your opponent controls activates its effect, place a wedge counter on that opponent's monster, max 1. And after that effect resolves, once per turn you can target one monster your opponent controls with a wedge counter, take control of it, and once per turn during your end phase you can destroy all monsters on the field that have a wedge counter. So basically it's a Snatch, Steal and a Regeki, which is fantastic, and it's easy to make. So next up we're running one Borreload Savage Dragon for the negation of effects, and when it's synchro summoned you can banish equip a link monster from your grave to this card, and if you do, place borrow counters on it equal to that link monster's link rating. This card gains attack equal to half the attack of the monster equipped to it by this effect, and when your opponent activates a card or quick effect, you can remove a borrowed counter from this card and negate the activation. So next up we're running one copy of Armor Master, one copy of Chidori, one copy of Blackwing Tamer. These Obsidian Hawk Joe targets a level 5 or higher winged beast in your grave, special summon it. It doesn't come up that much. And Assault Blackwing Chidori the Rain Sprinkling. This card gains 300 attack for each Blackwing monster in your graveyard, and when it's destroyed and sent to the grave, you can target a winged beast type synchro monster in your graveyard, except Chidori the Rain Sprinkling and special summon it. Blackwing Armor Master has the effect that it cannot be destroyed by battle, and you take no battle damage from battles involving it, and at the end of the damage step, if this card attacked a monster, you can place a wedge counter on that monster. You can remove all wedge counters from your opponent's monsters. The attack and defense of those monsters that had wedge counters become 0 until the end phase. And next up, we're playing one copy of No Thung the Starlight. If it's special summoned, you can inflict 800 damage to your opponent, then one face-up monster your opponent controls loses 800 attack and defense. You can only use this effect of No Thung the Starlight once per turn. During your main phase, you can normal summon one Blackwing monster in addition to your normal summon / set. You can only gain this effect once per turn. And lastly, for the synchro monsters, we're running one copy of Dark Dimension Soldier. This card came from Battle of Chaos, and you can banish a card from your hand, then target one of your banished dark monsters, special summon that monster in face up or face down defense position, and during the end phase inflict 100 damage to your opponent for each set card on the field. You can only use each effect of Dark Dimension Soldier once per turn. So it's a level 5, so if you banish Gale from your hand, you can just make a late game Borreload Savage Dragon. And for the Xyz monsters, one Raid Raptor Force Strix. It requires 2 level 4 monsters. It gains 500 attack and defense for each winged beast monster you control, other than this card. And once per turn, you can detach a material from this card, add one level 4 dark winged beast monster from your deck to your hand. Next up, we're running the Ark Rebellion OTK package. Raider's Knight just ranks up into Ark Rebellion and Arc Rebellion can basically gain the attack of all other monsters on the field, but it's only Arc that's allowed to attack. So next up we're running Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon, Dark Requiem Xyz Dragon. Dark Requiem is just a monster negate. Dark Rebellion is just here for the rank up option, because Dark Requiem only gains the effect if it has Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon as material. And lastly, we're running one copy of Raid Raptor Ultimate Falcon. It requires 3 level 10 winged beast type monsters. It's unaffected by other cards' effects. You can detach a material from this card for the rest of this turn. All monsters your opponent controls will lose 1000 attack. Also, your opponent's cards and effect cannot be activated. If this card has a Raid Raptor monster as Xyz material, it gains this effect. Once per turn during the end phase, you can make all monsters your opponent controls lose 1000 attack. If your opponent controls no face-up monsters, inflict 1000 damage to your opponent. Well, that's it for the deck profile. If you liked the video, please give the video a like. And comment your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear them. And this was BlockManYu-Gi-Oh. Thank you very much. If you like my videos, please subscribe. Thank you very much. Goodbye.